I'm Victoria. I'm Vanessa. Yeah, it's okay if you can't tell us apart. I guess we would call it Twingineering. Yeah.
Welcome back to our 15th episode of Twingineering. If this is your first time joining us, if you started on episode 15, welcome. Yeah. So we use this podcast, or we started this podcast to be a resource to Latinas and other minorities in engineering. And one of our new things that we started doing was having features and special guests on our podcast. And this allows us to provide other perspectives and other journeys that more resources than we can provide. So today we have Sarahi. Sarahi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Victoria, Vanessa, for having me here today. Yes, my name is Sarahi Granados. I am currently a space systems engineer at Northrup Grumman. I attended UC Davis with both of these wonderful ladies. Graduated 2021. I forgot how long ago it was, but graduated 2 years ago in both aerospace mechanical engineering, and just really excited to, provide kind of my experience and any advice and answer any questions.
Yay! Well, thank you, Sari, for joining us. We'll just get started. So we like to start with some being a little more conversational. So we'll start with weekly highs and lows. We'll start with the lows and then we'll bring up the energy. So for lows, I think for me, I feel like I said this on the last one maybe, but it's consistent. One of the few consistent things in my life. It's about like managing stress. I think one of the, like in an engineering role, at least for me, it's like everything changes constantly. So as soon as you think you have a plan, it's like, oh, no, you don't. So I think it's just like learning to adapt to like new changes. So yeah, we're learning, we're growing, but it was a lot this week, but tomorrow's Monday and we're gonna start again. Victoria, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I think for me, it was also stress. That would be my low. It was just like this week was like a little bit stressful, and I was like, don't like this. But we got through it. And like Vanessa said, we'll be back on Monday, so we'll see how it goes.
Sari, do you want to tell us your low?
Sure. I think we're all here on the same page. Just stressful and a lot of adaptation to new roles and responsibilities. I know for me currently, I'm always going through different roles, responsibilities, and I'm always confused, like, wait, what am I doing now? And I don't want to overstep because I want to do something, but they're like, that's not your role. So I was like, okay, so then what is it?
Yeah.
So, same here. Stressful just because I'm like, what am I supposed to do? But
I feel that. Yeah. Women in STEM. Okay, so now we're gonna do some weekly highs, bring up the energy. For me, I went to this arts festival yesterday at this place that I do pottery. I actually went in with the intention with doing like open studio pottery. And then my friend and I walked in and then they were like, oh, we have this arts festival going on. The open studios are like closed. And I was like, oh, this is great. But it turned out very well. Like the unexpected things sometimes just work out. But yeah, it was really fun. Victoria?
I got my hair done yesterday. That was like most of my afternoon. I did like, if you could see, I mean, I guess if you're listening to this on like Spotify, you can't see, but like I did like face framing layers, and then it's like I think they're like red and like copperish highlights under, but it's under. So like if you can't see, and then if I'm like, ta-da.
Surprise.
But yeah, that was my high.
Nice. My high would be been really into going to like small shows and concerts lately, and so yesterday I went to like a pretty small like indie band one in Pomona. So it was nice. It was like a small venue. It's called the Glass House.
Oh.
I really liked it just because it's more intimate. You can be closer to the artist, and so that was it was fun.
I love those kinds of shows.
Yeah, it's way bigger, better than like bigger venues. Just 'cause-
Yeah.
Yeah. I also just like listening to live music. Just
yeah.
like it's different. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next thing. We'll say something that we learned in our current role, or something new that we tried. So I guess I'll go first just to give you guys some time to think. I'll throw myself in there. Um, I started, so I'm in a rotational program, and I started a new rotation. And one of the things that I've been able to be a part of, at least this week, it was mostly like setup or like before some testing on an engine, and a lot of like their setups or like what they do before to like make sure it's okay, like that kind of stuff. Um, One, I know the bare minimum about an engine. So like getting into this rotation that kind of shows you more like what happens, during like when they do tests and like what's necessary in order for it to be put in this like testing thing. But yeah, and then this provided me with more like hands-on experience and like visuals, so just learning a lot. Yeah.
I can't think of anything that I learned in my current role. I feel like the stress just like
She knows it all.
blocked everything. So I'm like trying to think back and I was like, what? Like, but I've been trying to try new coffee shops. The most recent one that I tried was like this one in Burbank that just opened. I didn't really like it that much, so I won't be going back, but that's all I have to share. At least I tried it.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think right now I'm working really closely with like, which is funny, with like the electrical engineers. And it's not my background. It's very, very different from mechanical and aerospace. And so it's just me trying to understand like hardware, software, like what is the difference? Like I'm so confused. So it's been very challenging, and my role like consists of me leading meetings. And so it's like, okay, lead the meetings and direct the engineers and the electrical ones. And I'm like, I don't know what to ask. And then they ask me
Yeah.
questions back, and it's like, I'm like, okay, Tom, can you answer that? So it's just a lot of me just learning that. It's very, very different. So
Yeah.
props to you too, because I'm so confused. I'm like, what's happening? So
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
Honestly though, I feel like I couldn't do mechanical stuff. I've tried, like what was it, AutoCAD? Like it seems easy and I feel like I would eventually get it, but I was too slow. I was like, that's not for me.
For me, it's like I talk to a lot of mechanical engineers. So then they're like, oh yeah, like we do this to like check this and something something, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Look it up later. Well, yeah, we'll just go into the episode theme now, which is sorry. But so the first thing I guess we'll ask you, I know you mentioned like your major and your degree, but I guess also what was your college experience like?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very broad question, so
Yeah,
elaborate
so
on
how
what
do
you
I
want to.
start? Well, I think I had a really good experience like starting, just because I was in the leader program. So
Mhm.
really directed towards like first gen minorities that were coming into college. And so it was great just because it was a week program. So it's called Leader Summer Bridge. And it was 1 week before classes started. And so they really just prepared you like, oh, this is what a classroom looks like, or this is how lectures are, and these are classes you should like take for them to help you, like tutoring. And so they really prepared us like that week of like, this is all the resources there are like on campus. And so I was already kind of like a little ahead, which really helped a lot, just because we don't like, first gen, we can't ask our parents like, oh, like what should I do? Or, like, office hours, like what is that? And so it was just great. And then I was also able to have like make friends. And so I already had like my study groups ahead of time. Just the first lecture, like, oh, let's all like study, just because we were all new. So like, do we study now or what's going on? But it was good just having that, support group and like students and mentors, advisors. So I think starting it was really good. And then afterwards, obviously it escalated, things are hard, and your advisor could only do so much. You just kind of, study and you're like, okay. So
Work
yeah,
hard.
I know, right? Like it's just motivational words, which was nice, but it's like, help me.
Yeah.
So I think I did have a really good start, just, shout out to leader. But yeah, after that, like I said, it got more difficult, but it's really important to have, classmates and study groups. You think you're good on your own, but it's like, no, you need help. You need to like have people work with you. And so
Yeah.
I think that's what really pushed me and made things much more easier, but it was, of course, challenging.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of good things about Leader. Actually, we were not a part of that, but also I don't really like know how to join or anything. So like,
Okay,
yeah.
because I know they emailed us about it, and there was a thing called, I think it was called Step or something.
Uh-huh.
I know it was like another kind of like leader, but it was longer. It was like more the entire summer, and I
Yeah.
didn't get into that, so I was like, oh dang, like I need help though. And then they came up with leader, which was specific for engineers, which was actually nicer. And so
Yeah.
held, and they're like, oh, like I was on the wait list for some reason, so I was like, man, like I really want it. So I was like, I'm just gonna call. Like it doesn't hurt to call. So I
Yeah.
called them, and then one of them was Tanya, and she answered, and I was just like, hey, like I
Mhm.
really want to be a leader, but I'm on the wait list. I was like, just let me know what I can do, or kind of where my status is, me like, come on, help me.
Yeah.
Oh, you sound so like motivated, like you really want to be in it. And it's like, yeah, I do. And she's like, okay, you're off the wait list. I was like, okay. So like I said, like if you really want something, just ask or call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow. That's really cool.
mhm.
Yeah. I feel like for a lot of first gens, I guess like the general experience is the same. Like you struggle and then you find your people and it's like more bearable.
Struggle
But
together, not alone.
you struggle together, yeah. So I guess also, how did you get into like aerospace and mechanical engineering? Like, did you know you wanted to do that going into college? Has that always been an interest, or how did your interest spark?
Yeah, I always say this. I'm like, it started in second grade. So it's true though. We had like this outreach event that was hosted at my elementary school. That's why I'm so into outreach, just 'cause that's where I started. So we
Mhm.
would have like engineers from like Lockheed Martin, NASA, and they would come to our school and they would hold these like workshops. They were like really fun ones, and they would have like telescopes like on the playground, and people would be able to look at it. And so it was just really exposure to that really like sparked my interest in space in general. And so
Mhm.
I started with that. I was like, oh, I want to work for NASA. I want to work for space, but I never wanted to be an astronaut. So that's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Everyone's like, do you want to go to space? It's like, no, I'm scared. I'll send someone, but I don't want to go. So it was just me really. I want to be on the kind of on the side, like working all the math and stuff. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it started off there, that outreach event. And then since then, it was just nothing really else like caught my attention. So unfortunately, I was good at math, so it all worked out. And I was like, okay. So yeah, I started off like, oh, I want to be an astronomer, work space. And it's funny. So the story of becoming an engineer, I was at the dentist, and my dentist asked me, I was like 10 years old. He was like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, I want to work for NASA. Like, that's just all I said. And he was like, oh, so an engineer. And I just stood there and I was like, what is an engineer? But I'm like, this guy's a dentist. Like, he knows his stuff. So I was like, all right. So I remember like after that dentist appointment, I thought about it. I was like, what is an engineer? Is that kind of my way to NASA? Okay. So that's when I was just like, yeah, I want to be an engineer. So
Hmm.
yeah, very young age, just being exposed and then being told, you're gonna be an engineer. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
did it. Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, I feel like that's why like I mean you said like outreach is like super important and like just exposing the idea, especially to first gen
Mhm.
students like early on. I feel like that would help, because then they like know like okay, like they have some sort of idea of like what to study, like what classes are like more important, I guess. But Yeah, that's all I have to add. Thanks.
Okay, so also, now that you worked at Northrop, I guess like we want to know about like your work experience. So, maybe how like when you started, is it like now, like is it what you expected? Like have you enjoyed it? Any key points or like, things that you consider memorable and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So for me, it was quite challenging. Starting, I think I started because I have a security clearance, and so it's very like restricted of what you do.
Yeah.
And you're very, and they call it the closed area, so you don't really have access to like, I guess, the outside world. You're just kind of really in an office. And so for me, it was quite challenging just adapting to that environment. And so I did start off, sorry, I did start off kind of hard. And so for me, it was more challenging. And then also just being first gen. And they put me in a team where it was just me, myself, like as a new hire. So I was like, I couldn't really ask people like, how do you feel? Like, am I behind? Is it okay to be confused? So it's just really just like me in my head, like, dang,
Yeah.
like, how do you not know this? You should know this. And, imposter syndrome. So I was like, man, why am I here? And so I think it was really challenging for me in the beginning. And then, I mean, fortunately, we have like a really good system where you have two managers. So it's one they call it your functional. So he's the one that's really in charge of your role and your status and kind of how your like your work experience is. And then you have your assignment manager, which is your manager that gives you your work. So they're very separate, like purposely, so that you can tell your functional, hey, I don't like my assignment manager. I don't like my work. So you have someone to talk to and that he can be like, okay, let's find something else for you. So I remember, I told him, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this team. Like, it's really hard. And he was like, okay, we'll find you something else. So it was challenging at first, but I think it's just speaking up is really important. And for me, I was really scared of speaking up because I'm like, is it my place to speak up? Like, I'm just new,
Right.
And so I was like, I don't kind of want to be like complain already. Like, I don't like what I'm doing. Like, is that appropriate to do? Am I going to get fired?
Yeah.
So all these things. And so, yeah, it was challenging, but then just meeting people honestly is networking like within the company, just because I work in a very big company. So, there's just so many resources. And for me, it's like, okay, I need to start networking. So I did. And then we have like resources groups on our company. And so I joined the one for like Latinos engineers. And yeah, just honestly getting mentors like everywhere is really, really important. And so that's what I did. And it really helped me just because you can really be more vulnerable and like talk to them really about your experience, and they'll be honest with you too. And it's more kind of like safe and open, not really like, okay, we're in a work environment, be professional. It's like more relaxed. So yeah, I think for me, what really helped was just finding mentors, and it's been great so far. I think what's really unique about Northrop too is like within the resource group, we have something called Mujeres Circle. And so what it is they have like a director who is like female Latina engineer, and she is the mentor, and she's paired up with like 7 mentees. So it's like our little circle. And so they do like, it's like the whole entire company. So you have people from like Arizona doing that. And so yeah, and so it's really nice because they pair you up with someone that's on your like site, and we meet up like every month. And it's just also, again, like everyone's just really sharing their experience, like, oh, I did this, like, or people like share like, oh, I got a promotion, or I'm struggling with this. So it's really nice. Yeah, so I think like Northrop in general, they really, really try to help, like making sure you feel welcomed, and that there's people out there that can answer questions for you. But yeah, it did start really hard, I'll be honest. I was kind of like, man, what am I doing here? Like, I want to quit already. Like, this isn't me. But it's just reaching out and speaking up. Like, it's important. And I know maybe like in our culture, it's not like, speaking up kind of looks bad, but it's like, no, just do it because someone else in the company is doing it. So I was like, just you do it too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I mean, I was always scared to ask like questions, and then I was like, why didn't I ask the question? Like, now I'm still confused. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't get my questions answered. So I mean, obviously I'm like better at that now. but
Yeah.
still, like, I'll get like nervous like right before I ask the question. But at least I ask it. But yeah, like I guess like in that way, like speaking up or being able to like ask questions is like, yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Scary, but like you have to do it. Like
Yeah,
no one knows how you feel unless you say it.
right. Yeah. And I think also like a lot of it can be in your head. Like for me, I'm like, oh, like what if they think I'm dumb? It's like they never said that. So like why would you assume that? I don't
Yeah.
know. But yeah, also like when I first started, I also didn't know what to expect, right? But it's like you go in and you're like, I don't know, like are they gonna put me to work right away, or am I gonna do like some training videos or whatever? Um, but yeah, it was also very hard for me to ask questions too, and then it's like, no, just ask. Like you're clearly not supposed to know like how the company runs if you've never worked for them. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing, and then like within your role, like you're obviously gonna have questions and I think like once you do, it's like you realize it wasn't that big of a deal, even though like you felt like it was. Like I think for me, because everyone's always willing to answer questions, and I'm like, and I still get scared sometimes. Obviously, I have more courage now, but
Yeah.
like it's just like so many thoughts, and it's like if you just didn't think about that and you asked the question, you would have had your answer already. Like I just try,
Yeah.
I just like tell myself to just like do it. Like stop wasting your time.
Yeah, that's so true.
Or
Yeah.
even like with like raises and stuff, or like when you have like meetings, I'm like, what if I go into this meeting and they're like, you're fired? Obviously, that's not the topic of like the meeting, but I'm like, but what if, you know?
Oh
And
no.
like no one ever said that, but I put that in my head, you know, and it's like such a struggle.
So, or like they IM you, like, can I call you? And I'm like, oh my God, did I do something bad? Like, oh, I'm getting in trouble, aren't I?
Yeah. Uh, we always assume the worst.
Oh, it's
I
so bad.
know. I think, yeah, like when they're like, can I call you? And I'm like, for what? You know, like what? Why do they need to call me?
Okay, so we'll move on to the next topic-ish. I think this was more Victoria. Um, you said you wanted to ask about like finances and like financial aid. Go ahead, Victoria.
Like you didn't have any student debt after graduating?
Yeah.
Do you have any like advice on like navigating that throughout college? Like, how to do that? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was all honestly scholarships. They really announced those in the emails that, they're kind of hidden on all the emails that they send out. Because I know we get so many in college and you're just focused on the assignments and your grades, but you really kind of disregard the ones where they're announcing scholarships. So yeah, I really just kept applying. Honestly, I'll be honest, like I had one essay where I just kind of wrote everything and I would use it every year and it worked out. So, I mean, I would tweak it and update it based on like my experience, make it more polished and better. But
Yeah.
I honestly just saved all my like scholarship essays like in one folder. And it's just like, they would ask really the same questions like, oh, what are your passions? What do you want to do? So I'm like, I mean, I have that pretty solid written down already. So let me just use that. And
Yeah.
so honestly, looking out through the emails and really applying, just, I know a lot of people don't, and they really have that money there. So they need to give it to somebody, and if you're not going to apply, then they'll just give it to whoever does. So
Right.
really, if you see requirements, like ignore that. Like sometimes people don't apply because the requirements, but then it's like, well, if only one person did, we'll just give it to that person. So just honestly apply to all of them. That's really what I did. It was all really scholarships.
Yeah, I think no, yeah, that's really good advice because or like at least like to set some time aside to like do that. I think like engineering is very stressful and like demanding, especially when you're in college. So like maybe it can be like, oh, I don't have time to do that. But like, obviously it's possible to get all this money. So it's like, you should set aside some time. But I also like agree with like not necessarily looking at the requirements. Like I remember I applied for like one scholarship and there was like a GPA requirement and I was like under, not by a lot, guys. I wasn't like failing, but I was under the requirement. Um, but I applied and then I still got it. So then I was like, you know, but yeah, I also like me personally, I didn't apply to like that many scholarships. So yeah, setting aside a folder would have been something good to do in college.
Yeah, it saves you time, I think.
Mhm.
But yeah, apply for scholarships, everyone. Free
They're
money.
out there. You just gotta find them in your emails. Fortunately,
Yeah.
read those emails and find them there.
Yeah, they are like always at the bottom. They're like, oh, by the way, apply to this scholarship, like this much money. Like, and it's just like the one link.
Yeah, but I know right now they have like Instagram pages, right? Like
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
different resources on campus, which is super great because they put like
yeah,
stories, so it's more accessible now, I would
yeah,
say. So
that's true. Yeah, guys, get an Instagram. You know, um,
yeah, social media.
Join social media.
step one. You already have step one, guys.
I
Um,
know, right?
okay, so now we'll move on to the submitted questions.
Or
Oh,
Sarahi, is there anything else like you wanted to like maybe talk about? Like I know you said like you do a lot with like outreach, like maybe if you want to talk about that. I mean, you don't have to if you're like no. But like anything else you maybe want to talk about that we didn't get to ask you about before we go into the submitted questions?
Sure. I mean, I can talk about the outreach part. So I did a lot of it during college, and now during my professional career. There's still so many opportunities to do it. It's actually probably the best time since you are a professional now. And so I was part of the board for SHIP South Bay LA. So that's kind of how I did the outreach through them. And now I do it through the company I work at, through the ERG. So they really partner with SHEP as well. And so we host like tours like at our
Oh
company.
wow.
Yeah, we really go towards like people in MESA or like high schools around that, are minorities, and yeah, still get really involved with that. And we're always looking for volunteers. So I know we have like Teams chat at our company, and we just kind of have like a volunteers chat where it's like, oh, we're looking for volunteers to do outreach here. So it's there, and it's honestly really nice to just inspire other students and really show them what's out there. And it's like, hey, we kind of come from the same background. Look where I'm at. Like, we can help
yeah,
together. And yeah, I'll still do that. I know we also have like mentorships with like high school students. And so they pair like one of us at the company with like a high school student, just really kind of help them like applying to college and writing their college application essays. So yeah, still really involved with that. And I know like life gets busy, we have our own things to do, but we can't really forget to help others as well. So still involved with
yeah,
that. It's really important.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really good.
Oh no, like, because we also have, well, we call it like business resource groups, and I also joined one, specifically for Latinos also. And we've had like a few outreach events, but mostly with like college students, and it's through SHIP, like their chapter in at Ohio State, and um it's been cool, like being able to be on the other end and like have the knowledge of like what it is to be in the company and like answer their questions, and like being there, you're like, I did it, and like you can do it too, you know what I mean? Just kind of helping, letting them know that, we're all here to like bridge that gap of like not enough minorities in engineering. So yeah, um always give back to your community. But it's really cool to hear you're doing that also.
Now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't think in college we connected with like any of the professional chef chapters, which is pretty interesting. So I I would encourage college chapters to do that and just reach out to the professional ones. Because
Yeah,
now, like, I don't think we get many emails from college chapters reaching out to us, and we're there to help. So I really encourage that for college students to do. Just reach out, just because that's why we have chef, is to
Yeah.
yeah,
each other. So
And I don't even think we had a chapter, right? Like I think like at UC Davis.
yeah, it was kind of like a mix. It was like
yeah.
half
It's-
half other one. I forgot.
yeah. reach out, everyone. Just reach out.
So,
Okay, so now we'll get into the submitted questions. So, as someone with experience working in the aerospace industry with companies like Northrop Grumman and NASA, do you know what the process is for obtaining a security clearance?
I mean, I can kind of share how it started. So I was an intern
Mhm.
Northrop during college, and then I got like the full-time offer after my internship was over. So it was really like after that, it's like, oh, we're submitting you for your clearance. So I know you have to get sponsored for that since it's really expensive. So that's kind of how I obtained mine. And that's why like during when I was in college, I was going throughout the whole process of like background checks, interviews,
Yeah.
and then my clearance got processed and I got it. And that's when I started working right away, like in like more confidential work. But sharing what it kind of consists of, I can't do that. But really,
Yeah.
kind of being sponsored, it's really through like the company that you worked at. Because I know I get questions as like, oh, like where can I pay to get it? And it's like, oh, like I think you can, but I wouldn't recommend it just because companies could pay and they normally do.
Mhm.
It's just, I know a lot of like job applications require a clearance, but
Oh, I see.
if you know
Yeah.
I can be sponsored, like can you guys sponsor my clearance? And it's just don't go do it yourself. I would not recommend that. Just get sponsored by a company.
Good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, moving on to the next question. Was there ever a hard time that you felt like giving up, and what kept you going?
Ooh, yeah, that's like many times. When you're stressed, like how we were just discussing, or when something's like difficult, but like I said, it's just reaching out to those mentors and just being reminded that you're not alone and that someone else experienced that. Even like conversations with your peers. Like I know I still talk to my college friends and kind of talk to them like, hey, like, have you guys ever experienced this? Or do you guys ever get confused by this? And
Mhm.
them sharing like, oh yeah, I felt that, or I did this to fix that. And it's just honestly just having that community of people with similar backgrounds or who are, you know, are higher above you in the company just because they've experienced it and they know a little more. And so for me, it's just really reaching out to mentors or your peers, classmates, or, you know, someone that is kind of on the same path as you. Just because I know we've all experienced this, just speaking up, like I said again, and admitting it, like I'm having trouble.
Yeah.
You just got to admit it. Like it's okay. Like we're not all perfect and great. I'm pretty sure the VP is also confused or needs like help. So yeah, it's just you just got to speak up. But challenges, they come all the time. I don't think that's ever going to go away, but
Yeah.
it's just now you got to learn how to manage that. And so for me, it's just reach out, speak up, you know. You can reach out to
Yeah.
me if you want. So
Yeah. I think that's the one thing I've accepted too. Like I was like, when am I gonna feel like I've like finished one thing, or like I am on level, you know, like everything is stable, and like that's never gonna happen.
yeah.
You know, like, and I'm like, the moment I accepted that, it's just like, okay, now you just have to take it day by day at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I get that. Um, okay, so the next question, what's some advice that would be helpful for someone in their early career?
Oh, early career. Okay. I feel like sometimes I'm still early career, like 2
Me
years.
too.
Right? I'm like, I'm not that far ahead. Like,
Like, how old do you
same
think I am?
question. I got the same question too. Yeah, I mean, I think I've really emphasized again, it's just mentors, really finding
Yeah.
those. Some companies, I know for us, we have like a specific mentorship program. And so you submit an application and then they pair you up with someone they think it's a good match. So maybe, you know, other companies do that as well. But honestly, just reaching out yourself and finding someone, you know, you could meet at a professional event and you see them like, hey, what's your name? Can I have your email and reach out to you? I know a lot of senior engineers love sharing about themselves. And so they really just love to share their experience and what they do, and they can go on forever, honestly. So just schedule something like an hour and talk to them, and they will be more than happy to. Just I've never really like scheduled something with someone. They're like, no, I don't want to help you. It's like, oh yeah, you can just go into their office and they can talk forever. Like, I used to do this and I did that. It's just, they love it. So
Yeah.
they reach
Yeah.
out.
That's true. I feel like networking is a big thing. And like, at least for me, the rotational program that I'm in has allowed me to like build contacts in different departments. And I would say like, I feel like I'm very introverted, but like when I'm put on the spot to not be, like, obviously I'm like, oh yeah, like, blah, 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 like, I just ask them random questions, and just to kind of get to know the person, because I feel like at the end of the day, like, yeah, they're also engineers, but they're also a human being, like ask them about their life and like, at least, okay, like where I work, a lot of people have farms, so you just ask them where they live and like like sometimes they'll talk about like the animals they have and I'm like, oh yeah,
That's
like
your cow.
like me, like a city girl, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. But so yeah, you just have to get them talking and like nod your head. But also like I don't know, like this one guy had like goats and I was like, he was showing me his goats and honestly they were so cute. So I was like, I was very intrigued. And I was like, it starts with one question. So yeah, building like your network and just getting to know people makes it a lot easier and that it's like everything has to be professional all the time. But yeah, also asking questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last one, April. This is from April Reynoso, I believe, right?
Mhm.
She said she would like to know why you're such a baddie.
Important question.
That is so important, right? That's a question for last. Oh, well, I don't know. Thank you. How do I answer
Like,
that?
what can I say?
It's hard. Yeah, just work hard, I guess.
You're like, just follow my footsteps. Do everything that I've done so far.
Oh no. Yeah. I mean, I would say for sure, like, don't compare yourself to other people. I think that's really important. I know a lot of times we're like, oh, how do you do that? Or how are you doing all this? And it's just like, sometimes I don't show you like the bad side of things, when I'm crying, when I'm stressed, when I'm like giving up. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
not fully certified baddie, but
Baddies also cry.
we could say that. It's challenging for sure, but for sure have like your people to talk to and mentors. Like I said, it's super helpful just because I like moved in to like this new place and then new job, so I was by myself and I was so focused, like, oh, I gotta go in, do my assignments and then clock out, and then I kept doing that, repetitive, but I wasn't really like talking to people at work or like, hey, how's your morning going, just because I'm like, no, not appropriate, professional.
Right.
But no, be a little more casual. It's okay. But it was just me really kind of observing to like, all right, how is this work environment? Like, is it appropriate, to say Merry Christmas? I don't know. So now it's like, now I'm over here decorating the whole office. Like, I don't care. Bring some happiness here. If no one is, I will. So
Yeah. Definitely have to feel the vibes out.
yeah.
But also like don't drink yourself in general. Unless like obviously like don't yell in the office, you know what I mean? But like like no one wants to hear you yell at like 8 a.m. Okay. So
Oh, no.
but just yeah, be you. It's all good. I think that was all the questions we had.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for our 15th episode. Be on the lookout for what's next. We don't know what's next, but yeah. We don't have an outro, so we're just gonna say bye.
Before we do, you can watch this episode or you can access it through our website. All of our episodes are there. We'll post about it on social media, but this will also be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also YouTube if you want to see our faces. and Victoria's red hair.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. And stay tuned for more. Okay, bye.